Today's lesson is over area of circles. The notes of these circles can be found on pages 19 and 20 in your notebook. Make sure that you are paying attention and taking notes in your booklet to receive credit for watching this video. As a reminder, area is the space inside of a 2D shape, so a two-dimensional shape. The area of a circle can be found by multiplying pi times the radius squared. For the area of a circle, we only have one, whereas for circumference, we had two different formulas. We only have one formula for the area of a circle, pi r squared. So we have to have the radius. Whereas for circumference, we could have radius or diameter. For area, we have to have the radius. Pi r squared is the same thing as saying pi times the radius again. Because when you square a number, you're essentially multiplying that number by itself. So if it helps you to remember that that exponent means multiplying it by itself, you might want to write it out as pi r, or to remind yourself that you're multiplying the radius by itself, not by 2. The first couple of examples are done for you, but let's work through them. We're going to make sure that we always write our formula first. Area equals pi r squared. That gave us my radius of 4 in the problem, so we're going to fill it in. 3.14 pi radius squared 4 squared. 4 squared has a value of 16. 3.14 times 16 is an area of 5.24. Remember, because it's area now, we're going to label our area as inches squared or feet squared, whatever our unit happens to be. Remember the squared part for it since we're dealing with area. The second example is a little bit different. They tried to trick you here by giving you the diameter. Now remember, in my area formula, I only have r for radius. So I have to have the radius when I'm solving this. Well, if I have a diameter of 10, if I divide 10 by 2, I know my radius is actually 5. So 5 is what I'm going to use when I'm solving for the area. That's probably one of the most important parts, is making sure that you're using the radius, even if they try to trick you by giving you the diameter. So again, pi radius squared, 5 squared is 25. So the value of pi, 3.14, times 25, and they probably rounded the answer to the nearest tenth here, and they got 78.5 square centimeters, or centimeters squared. All right, let's try one ourselves. Always start out by writing the formula. Area equals pi times the radius squared. They gave me the diameter, so I don't want to use the diameter. I have to have radius for this formula. So if I cut the diameter in half, I know my radius is actually 6. So for my formula, I have pi 3.14 times the radius 6 times the radius again, because I'm squaring my radius. 6 times 6 we know is 36. So essentially all I have to do now is pi 3.14 times 36. So off to the side, let's multiply that out. 3.14 times 36. So let me give you just a minute and you multiply that out. Now, once you've multiplied, don't forget to go back and put your decimal into your answer. Because I have two numbers behind the decimal in my problem, the 1 and the 4, I need two numbers behind the decimal in my answer. So my answer here would be 113 and 400 centimeters squared. Or if they ask to round to the nearest tenths, which they often do, the 0 is in my tenths place. So I'm going to look to the number to the right of that. The 4 is less than 5, so I'm not going to round up. So this would stay 113.0 if I were asked to round to the nearest tenth, but it didn't say, so we'll just leave it. So pi times the radius squared gives us the area of a circle. Again, don't forget, if they give you the diameter, like they did in this example, you have to cut that in half. We have to have the radius in order to find the area. Number 2. Again, always start out, write your formula. Area, pi radius squared. In this problem, they gave us the radius, so we're good to go ahead and start filling out our formula. Pi is 3.14. Radius squared is 7 times 7 again. We know 7 times 7 is 49. So I have 3.14 times 49 to give me my area. So go ahead and take a minute and multiply that out. .86 is what you should have gotten when you multiplied. Again, if you were asked to round to the nearest tenth, the 8 is in the 10th place, so I look to the number to the right of that. The 6 is 5 or greater, so I am going to round the 8 up. So if I were asked to round to the nearest tenth, that would be 153.9. And then my label, inches squared. So pi times the radius squared, or pi times the radius again. That's what that means. All right, they gave us the radius again, which is nice. We don't have to cut the diameter in half, but they did give us a radius that has a decimal, so be really careful here. Pi is 3.14. Radius, 3.5 times radius again, radius squared, times 3.5 again. So you can multiply in any order you want here. You can do your 3.14 times 3.5 and then multiply that answer times 3.5. Or you can multiply your two 3.5s together and then multiply pi. It's completely up to you what order you choose to multiply in. I'm going to choose to multiply my 3.5 by 3.5 first. Five times 5 is 25. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 2 is 17. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 7 plus 5 is 12. 1 plus 1 is 2. 1. I have two numbers behind the decimal in my problem, a 5 and a 5. So I need two numbers behind my decimal in my answer. So I got 12.25 for 3.5 squared. I'm not done. I still have to go and multiply that by pi. Be careful. If this were a multiple choice question, they may have given you one of your answer choices as 12.25 to try to trick you. But you're not done with the 12.25. You still have to take it one step further and multiply that by pi. This is where things can get kind of messy. So make sure you're staying very nice and neat with your work. 12.25 times 3.14. 5 times 4 is 20. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 2 is 10. 4 times 2 is 8, plus 1 is 9. 4 times 1 is 4. Now I can go ahead and place my 0, and I can multiply my 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. I'm going to scoot my page down just a little bit. Now I can multiply my 3. This time I have to place 2 zeros before I start multiplying. 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And like I said, this is where things can get kind of messy. I'm going to go ahead and draw a little divider line so I know I'm adding the correct numbers to each other, making myself columns so everything's nice and lined up, so I don't add the wrong numbers together. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. 9 plus 2 is 11. 11 plus 5 is 16. 4 plus 1 is 5. Plus 2 is 7. 7 plus 7 is 14. Carry your 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Plus 6 is 8. And then 3 plus nothing is 3. This time I have 4 numbers behind the decimal in my problem. The 2, the 5, the 1, and the 4. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4 numbers behind the decimal in my answer. So my answer comes out to 38.4650. If you were asked to round to the nearest tenth, the 4 is in the tenths place, I look to the number to the right of that. The 6, it's 5 or greater, so it will round the 4 up. So if I were asked to round to the nearest tenth, that would round to 38.5. My label here is yards squared area. I double check with the calculator. 3.5 times 3.5, 12.25. Yes. Times 3.14, 38.4650. Yes, I got that question correct. So be really, really careful in your calculations.